I've never had a client say, oh, I wish I had done this later. Clients always say, I wish I had done this sooner. If someone's looking at EB5 today, what's my top piece of advice? Probably plan early. Again, time is a very valuable asset, and the more time we have to structure things properly and look at lots of different options and think through things, the better off you're going to be over the long term.
What benefits the US brings to a global family or global citizen that is looking at the US? Welcome to the PL Group podcast. I'm Daniel Duric, CEO of PL Group. Today, I'm so excited to have here with us George Gainey. Welcome. George is an immigration attorney based in Washington, D.C., and is the owner of Gainey Law Group. George, welcome to the PL Group podcast. Welcome to Dubai.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Our pleasure. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about your background?
Sure. Yeah. Well, my name's George Gainey. I own and operate Gainey Law Group. We're a private client U.S. immigration law firm. We're based in Washington, D.C. Really, are passionate about representing our individual investor clients and their family members and trying to find, effective, kind of stress-free solutions to a relatively complex immigration system in the United States. So very happy to be here. Always a pleasure to work with you guys here at PL Group, and looking forward to our conversation today.
Fantastic. Well, let's dig into more investment migration options in the US.
Yeah.
We have many clients historically that opted for the green card in the US.
Yeah.
And one of the most effective route is the so-called EB5 program. Tell us about it.
Sure. So EB5 is a green card category in the United States. It's the only green card category that's totally, that has requirements that are totally objective, meaning the requirements aren't subjective at all. And there's just two numbers that clients need to keep in mind. One is the investment of $800,000 in the United States, and the other is the creation of 10 new full-time jobs in the United States. So whereas other green card categories are determined by more subjective criteria, like is this person a person who has extraordinary ability? Is this person someone who is going to serve the U.S. national interest? EB5, again, is just two hard numbers, 800,000 to 10 new full-time jobs in the United States. So that's what makes it really attractive to clients who are looking for a passive option in the U.S., an effective option in the U.S., and one that gives them a lot of security and the ability to sleep well at night, knowing that ultimately their green card will be issued because we're not subject to the whims of a U.S. immigration officer.
Okay, very, very clear. And why would someone opt for EB5, and what kind of profile of families or people opt for EB5 actually?
Sure. So typically it's clients who have an interest in either relocating themselves with their family members to the United States, or clients who have kids who are studying in the United States or who want to start their professional careers in the United States. So again, this is a passive option. It doesn't require a client or their children to go out and start a business in the U.S., demonstrate that they're really going to, serve the U.S. national interest, whatever that happens to be, on that particular day. And so that makes it very attractive to people who are looking for an effective option, something that they can make an investment into, take advantage of that investment and turn into a green card, again, either for themselves and their entire family, or we're seeing more and more parents of kids who are in the U.S. A lot of times, kids who are in the U.S. on an F1 student visa, there's a lot of kind of like turbulence in the F1 international student visa space. There's going to be changes as to how long international students can stay in the U.S. There's going to be restrictions as to where, when, and for how long they can work after they complete their degree. There's a lot of more like social media vetting and the like. So it's a real kind of target for the Trump administration. The other thing is that post-graduation, it's a very difficult climate to get a visa if a kid really wants to start their career in the U.S. So we just see a lot of parents saying, you know what, we're just going to short circuit this thing. We're going to make this investment on behalf of our child, set them up for success over the long term in the US. And it's a simple, effective, and relatively straightforward solution. We try to make it straightforward for the client. We try to kind of take all the stress and the complicated nature of the US immigration process out of the environment for the client, take care of that, and make sure that they have a nice, smooth experience.
Yeah, and in fact, if I look back at our cases that we've done in the past, it's always, in 90% of the cases, family with children involved. And I've noticed that family do that and plan it a little bit ahead. So it's not something I need to move there tomorrow. It's always about, hey, my children is 15, 16, or my child is at university in the US. What can be done? So in 2, 3, 4 years, I'm ready. Is that the case?
Yeah, for sure. I've never had a client say, oh, I wish I had done this later. Clients always say, I wish I had done this sooner. Time is a very, very valuable asset. I think everyone knows that. We only have a certain amount of it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep my answers brief here and awareness of your valuable time, my valuable time. But it's also something that we have difficulty controlling in the US immigration context. So more lead time is better. Once we get something approved, it's a lot easier to manage time after an approval rather than trying to press time to get an approval quickly. Having said that, processing times have come way down for EB-5 because of a reform act that went into place in March of 2022 that had kind of some hard deadline goals for the U.S. Immigration Service as to how to get processing times down. But typically, yes, you're right. Especially in the context of like backlogs that can come into play for clients who are born in certain parts of the world, like India or China, planning and doing things on a more extended timeline is always optimal. Now, you can't always control that. Things come up. There are going to be some deadlines over the next, I would say, 12 to 18 months. We're recording this September 2025. So by September 2027, September 2026, for example, that's going to be really crunch time ahead of September 2026 in particular.
Okay, understood. Now, I would like to know something. We have many families, clients that are from India, China, Africa. In many occasions, they are very successful and they live and work in business hubs around the world.
Yeah.
Why do you think they still want or they still plan for the USA for themselves or for their children when they look long term? Another way to ask you this question is, what benefits the US brings in general, or in your opinion, to a global family or global citizen that is looking at the US?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, as you can probably tell, and as you know, I'm from the US, so, I'm a little partial to the US. Having said that, I've lived and worked in lots of different places, and so it helps to be able to also see it from the outside and experience things on the other side of the coin. I travel a lot. I'm here in Dubai, and I think clients appreciate that as well because, when you're jet lagged for the meeting and they're not, then the shoe's on the other foot for them. They're usually, the ones staying up until 10 o'clock at night to have a meeting. But the other comment I have before I give you my answer is I like being an attorney because I just represent the client's interest. So I don't have to sell the U.S. to the clients. I just very, vigorously and zealously and in hopefully a stress-free manner represent the client's interests.
Yes.
Having said that, I think that people are, continue to be interested in the United States for a couple different reasons. First, it's huge. Just geographically, it's enormous. California, just the state of California, geographically is the size of Spain. And in terms of just the economy of the state of California, I don't know if it's the third or fourth largest economy in the world. And that's just one of the 50 states. So it's huge in terms of market, geographically, job options for kids once they're done with college, just businesses wanting to enter the market and the like. So I think it's huge. That's very attractive to clients. There is still a very large sense of freedom You can get a big car, you can get a small car, you can get a big house, you can get a small house, you can get a dog, not get a dog. So I think that's very attractive to clients as well. And then finally, I think it's the education system. The U.S. Universities, secondary education, even primary education is still very robust. There's a ton of different options. You and I both have kids, and so you start thinking about kids' education, and you look at the U.S. and it's like, well, if you want options, I mean, that's where you want to go if you want options. So I think just in terms of size, both geographically, market, the ability to do what you want to do, and then the education system, I think that's really what drives clients to the U.S. Our experience also has told us that the U.S. isn't something that, as an immigration option, it's like kind of difficult to sort of offer to a client as just another option. You want to diversify your residency and your your nationality options. The U.S. is very difficult to sort of like introduce into a sort of spectrum of options that are available to the client. The client is usually wants to go to the U.S. They either want to go for themselves or for their kids.
Very, very clear, fair points. Thank you for that. I would like now to focus a little bit more on the requirements. Let's imagine we have a potential client that is looking into obtaining the green card by DB5. What is important to know when it comes to what needs to be done, papers, timeline, how much funds shall I have aside? Is there some documents that are super important to consider? So a little bit like, in a nutshell, the main 5, 6, 7 points to consider when proceeding.
That's a big nutshell for 5, 6 or so points, but we'll try to squeeze it in. We'll think of it as like a walnut or something. But number one is when we talk about the $800,000 investment, we need to prove and document the source of funds that the client is using for that $800,000 investment. We don't have to prove and document the client's full global net worth, but we do need to, again, explain, document, and demonstrate the source of funds and also the path of funds. So where the client obtained the funds from, and then trace them through the series of transactions until they actually make their $800,000 investment. So that trail also requires almost like a forensic accounting of the $800,000. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other, in terms of key documents, personal tax returns anywhere in the world. That's a statutory requirement. It's kind of arbitrary. So like 7 years of tax returns for the client and any businesses that they own. We have a lot of clients who are, they own businesses. They're entrepreneurial, they own businesses. So both for the client personally and for any entities, bank statements. And then something else to keep in mind is any document that isn't in English has to be translated into English. So that can take some time. It doesn't need to be a sworn translation or apostilled or anything like that, but it does need to be translated into English. And then finally, the clients will work with you here at PL Group to find a good fund to make their investment into. And so just to speak about how those funds are structured very quickly, I said earlier that this is a passive investment, and it is passive. You don't have to go out and create 10 new jobs, 10 new full-time jobs on payroll in the United States yourself. You can do that. That is one option, but I would say 99% of clients end up making investment into something called a regional center. And a regional center has a license from the federal government. They aren't a government-owned entity. They just have a license from the federal government. They pool funds from disparate individuals who are interested in EB5, and they make a loan, typically to a third party who's going to develop some piece of property in the United States. And the license that they have from the federal government allows the regional centers to conduct an econometric study and demonstrate jobs that have been created indirectly or jobs that have been induced in a particular economy in the United States. So long story short, in most cases, the government isn't going out and counting how many hard hats are working on the construction site. It's a passive sort of indirect induced jobs type technical study that renders the 10 new full-time jobs in the United States. So it's a completely passive investment. So working with you guys is important because you'll have done due diligence and cleared the regional centers, try to only work with, the best of the best. Like I said earlier, it's just a license. So, anyone can get, not anyone, but a lot of people can get a driver's license. That doesn't necessarily mean you want that person driving you to the hospital when you're injured. So, I think working with you guys adds quite a bit of value. That's from my experience.
Yeah, thank you. And in fact, yes, there are, I guess, hundreds of regional centers across the country. But again, there are few or a dozen of them that have been in business for 20 years, and they've always repaid investors, and they have developed quite substantial project or financed substantial projects. So it's important for the investors looking to EB-5 to also choose the right one, I would say, right? So it is something that we consider very important. Thank you for that. Now, if we quickly, today is the 24th of September. 23rd. And last week there were some announcement by current President Trump regarding different routes in the U.S. Immigration route or investment immigration route. I know nothing is confirmed or official. What is your take on this? What do you think will happen to EB-5? What is important to know, at least from today, as 23rd of September?
For sure. So 3 things. One is the presidential proclamation, which relates to H-1B visas. The second is actually an executive order implementing the long-rumored gold card. And the third is kind of a press release, informal announcement of something called the platinum card. So first on the H-1B side, that presidential proclamation was worded in a really opaque way, subject to lots of different interpretations. Long story short, it's going to become much more expensive for U.S. employers to sponsor individuals who are from outside the United States on H-1B visas. It's going to cost them an additional $100,000. That'll be a sunk cost. The H-1B visa is kind of like the workhorse of the U.S. Employment visa system. It's highly technical. There's not many available per year. There's usually a lottery to get one. But again, it's the sort of like the basic way that professionals can get to the United States. So that additional cost, which is very substantial, will drive a lot of individuals who could potentially sponsor themselves for some type of immigration option in the U.S. to look for something to get themselves there. The second is the gold card. That was an executive order. So that has a lot more weight to it than, say, a press conference or, a presidential proclamation or something like that. So what Trump's executive order said was, we are going to allow individuals to make a $1 million donation to the United States, specifically to the U.S. Department of Commerce. After having made that donation, we are going to determine that that individual has extraordinary ability. So we're going to say something like they've won a prize. Just the fact that this individual was able to accumulate enough wealth to make $1 million donation to the United States, that makes them have extraordinary ability. Or that they have exceptional ability and their presence in the U.S. is of the national interest. So what that executive order basically does is it says the $1 million donation is going to give you access to something called the gold card. And we're going to pull visas. We're going to pull actually green cards from the EB-1A and the EB-2 visa categories. And this is going to be implemented within about 90 days. It also says we're going to give you very, very expedited processing to actually get that green card in the US. We're going to pull from EB-1A and EB-2, and we're going to give you a green card very, very quickly. Another important point is there will be a pre-approval process. So in EB-5, clients make their investment, demonstrate their source of funds, file their visa petition, and wait for an answer. Now, eventually they can recoup the principal of their investment, but it's make your investment first, get your answer later. In the gold card scenario, you're going to be pre-approved. They're going to say, okay, make your donation here, then you apply for your green card and you get your green card in a very expedited fashion.
I see.
So that's the gold card. All of that is the executive order. Another important point on the gold card, it was initially billed as you're going to make a $5 million donation to the US. You won't be considered a tax resident, meaning you're not going to be subject to global tax on your income worldwide, and you're going to get something like a green card. So this is very different. You are going to be a taxpayer, a US taxpayer for global income tax purposes. You're going to have a green card. You're going to be a lawful permanent resident of the United States in exchange for a $1 million donation to the US Department of Commerce. So that's the gold card. Finally, now we have the concept of the platinum card. And so with the gold card and the platinum card taken together, along with EB-5, what we're seeing is kind of like a status-based approach to US immigration in the United States. So we have platinum, gold, EB-5. And so we're sort of seeing like a stratification of these options, almost like a credit card company or an airline or something like that. Very interesting. I'm not making a judgment as to like the policy choice there. I'm just saying that's what is happening. So the platinum card says you make a $5 million donation to the US. You can spend up to 270 days inside the United States, and you won't be subject to tax on your global income. And it'll kind of be like a permanent resident option, a permanent visa. You won't have to go apply for your B1, B2 visa or your ESTA authorization every 5 to 10 years, but you won't be subject to the US tax. That option, the platinum card option, will take some additional legal work to actually implement it because of the tax side. The 270 days, that's a totally new concept under tax laws and rules in the United States. And so to be determined what happens there. Again, the gold card, there's an executive order, that's happening. The platinum card, the $5 million donation, 270 days, no tax. That's, again, a press conference, sort of off the cuff, just first time anyone's hearing about this idea, so we'll see what happens.
Very interesting. This sounds to me like, in Switzerland, we have the flat tax regime, so any individual around the world can obtain residence in Switzerland as long as they agree with the canton to pay a flat amount of tax every year, ranging between 250,000 to 1 million Swiss franc a year. And then, and then they don't pay any additional tax, regardless of the global income. So it's very similar. It's linked to giving money to the local government and then obtaining residency. And going back to the US, where EB-5 stands among all this, and what do you see happening?
Yeah, so EB-5 today is the one option that's on the books. There's a statute. There aren't a lot of implementing regulations, but there's a lot of kind of policy guidance from USCIS, and it's on the books. There's a grandfathering clause that expires in September of 2026, as I alluded to earlier. That grandfathering clause says if you make your investment and you file your visa petition before September 30th, 2026, even if the rules and regulations and legislation relating to the regional center program change, you'll be subject to the same rules, regulations, et cetera, that were in place as of the date of your investment. So again, over the next 12 months, that'll drive a lot of people into EB-5. The other thing is that will drive a lot of people into EB-5 is there will be visa backlogs that will come into play for clients, particularly from mainland China and from India. And then finally, something that the Gold Card executive order said was, hey, we should look at expanding this also to EB-5. So not just pulling green cards for Gold Card seekers from EB-1 and EB-2, but we should also contemplate and look at pulling from EB-5. And so if they start pulling green cards from EB-5, that means that lots of clients will be forced into the $1 million donation option versus the $800,000 investment option. So there's going to be a lot of changes coming. We're going to have to stay like very much up to date. Being in DC does have its advantages in that regard. And, exciting times. somewhat stressful times for clients because lots of changes and lots of pressure means, you need to make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
But that's what we're here for.
Last question from my side.
Sure.
If someone is looking to B5 today, what's your top piece of advice?
If someone's looking at EB5 today, what's my top piece of advice? Probably plan early. Plan early. Again, time is a very valuable asset, very precious asset. And the more time we have to structure things properly and appropriately, look at lots of different options and think through things, the better off you're going to be over the long term.
George, as usual, thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Great being here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching. Again, if you are considering EB5 or you need any information, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you for watching.